Let's give a big Kansas City welcome to our next speaker, Kimberly Bryant.
Hi. Thank you.
Here you go.
Thank you, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for that applause, and thank you for being able to be here with you today. This is me and my daughter, who you're going to hear a little bit about in the presentation, but if you couldn't tell, we are San Francisco Giants fans. But for today, I know most people here don't care anything about the Giants, so for today, I'm like, go Royals. Because I hope that you'll still welcome me back to Kansas City if I meet you at the World Series in a few weeks, so we'll see how it goes. But today I really wanted to spend some time talking to you about our organization called Black Girls Code, which is a nonprofit based in San Francisco, California. And our work with really working with girls to crash this digital divide, utilizing technology as a lever for social change. I wanted to start out with this quote by George Bernard Shaw that says, "Some men see things as they are and ask why. I dream things that never were and ask why not." That kind of encapsulates my whole journey as a founder with Black Girls Code, in seeing an opening and something that was missing in the tech space and asking the question, why not? And as was mentioned in the introduction, we've had lots of success in the very it's only been 3 years that we started. But I was recently asked by a reporter what was the most proudest moment that I've had as a nonprofit founder, and could I tell him a little bit about that? And when I thought about it for a moment, it really was this one particular opportunity that we had to take a group of 3 students to the Lean Startup Conference in December 2013. And this picture here gives you an idea of the girls. They were on the stage for the Ignite talks. Very first time Lean Startup had ever invited youth speakers to their big Ignite talk. That's right before the conference, a room of about 500 people or more. And these 3 young ladies were able to stand up in front of that Ignite crowd and talk about some of the work they had done in creating 2 mobile apps during a hackathon experience a couple of weeks prior. Now, for me, I say this is the most exciting and the proudest moment as a founder for many reasons. I actually spoke at that conference the day after the girls. And although folks were interested in what I was doing as a founder, everybody wanted to know about the 3 superstar tech divas that were on the stage the night before. And rightfully so, because this was something that you don't see often, is 3 young women that are actually utilizing technology. They are creating with technology to solve social issues. So to talk to you a little bit about their journey to Lean Startup, I wanted to kind of just show you what they did and tell you a little about that process. Those 3 young students I need to emphasize here, they were only 14 and 10 at the time of that conference, so very young. But this is the work that they did in the course of 2 days in building these 2 mobile apps. The first slide that you see, or at the top of the slide, is their work as they went through a full ideation process with only one challenge, and that was to find a solution to a social problem in your area, in your neighborhood. And at this particular hackathon, we happened to be in Oakland. So after interviewing several people in the community, including the mayor of Oakland, Jean Quan, they decided that the issue they wanted to tackle as a team was hunger. And in the course of these 2 days, they created not 1, but 2 apps. The first one was called Food Bank, and this app was supposed to connect food banks to the sources of food that would come into them so they could be equally distributed, that they could actually make it more accessible to the food banks that needed it. But these students, not from our pride, we did not pride them in this way, but felt that that was a great app. They got it to the point that it was actually a working app, but it wasn't enough because it didn't solve the entire problem. And so that was a part of this creative process that we try to instill in our students, not just to solve the quick and easy win, but to look at the full problem. And so they decided to create a second app, which they also created in these 2 days, and was a fully working app called Feed Me. that would be forward-facing to consumers and connect consumers to the food banks that were supplying the food that they may need. And these two apps would talk to each other. So when I say this was the proudest moment for me as a founder, it's for many reasons. One of them, very obvious, I think, is that it really shows the work that we've done to teach girls within our programs how to code and how to build with technology. But more than that, I think this was a seminal moment and that it really showed that our program is about much more than coding. This work is really about teaching girls to be social change agents in their community and to utilize technology as a tool for that social change that we're hoping to see. So that is really what the focus of Black Girls Code is. And since we were founded in April 2011, our goal is really to deliver these technology workshops and seminars and events in a way that is accessible to girls from these underrepresented communities. And although the students that you saw were 10 to 14, we start as young as 6. And we really introduce girls as young as early as we can in the pipeline to keep them engaged until they graduate and hopefully go on to become the technology leaders of the future. Our mission is to empower them to do more than just be consumers of technology. Our goal is really to create the leaders, the next leaders of technology, and give them the tools to be creators. Our vision, we think, is pretty audacious as a goal, but we think it's achievable. And that is to reach 1 million girls and teach them to code by the year 2040. Since we started in 2011, we were at the very tip, I believe, of this burgeoning Learn to Code movement. So when I started, my motivation for really founding Black Girls Code was simple. One of the girls that you saw on the slide at the beginning, for sure, in the Giants shirt and hat, but also at the Lean Startup competition, was my daughter, Kai. When I started Black Girls Code, I was really just a mom who was very frustrated with the fact that my daughter was playing World of Warcraft 24/7 and driving me crazy. I didn't even know what that stuff was, but she was like a master leveler. I don't even know the levels. But this was her thing. She was into video gaming, and so we were constantly at GameStop buying game after game. She would complete the game, beat the level, and then we would be back at GameStop the next day. But I really didn't want her to continue to consume all of this technology, endless days spent in front of a computer screen, unless she was going to be a creator. And when I started to look at the landscape of opportunities to really get Kai involved in activities that would feed this interest in computer science and feed this interest in gaming and game development, I didn't find many organizations that really tapped into interested girls and encouraged girls particularly to get involved in computer science. I found lots of other organizations, but those were not really kid-friendly from a girl standpoint. So once we found a program at Stanford in the summer that we were able to enroll in, it was an incredible experience for Kai, because after the end of that summer camp, when I asked her what she wanted to do in the future, it was not longer that she just wanted to be a game tester. Now she wanted to be a game developer. So that was a win. But the thing that was a bit disappointing from that camp experience was that in a class of maybe 35 or a little under 40 students, Kai was one of only maybe 3 girls in the entire class and the only student of color. And this was discouraging to me because this really was replicating my path as an engineer starting out my career in the mid to the late 80s. And I didn't want that same experience for my daughter. So looking at this Learn to Code movement and where it was at the time, I knew that if it was to be, it was up to me. So I had to create the opportunity to create a different future for my daughter as opposed to wait on it to be created. So now, as you see, we sit right in the midst of several other organizations that work with youth and drive this Learn to Code movement for young people across the country. But we're still the only one that has a focus that is particular for girls of color. Since that time, we've grown exponentially. We have chapters now in over 7 U.S. cities, as you can see them listed here. And we also have a chapter in Johannesburg, South Africa. And we're hoping to go into Uganda before the end of the year. We've reached approximately 3,000 girls to date. Now, this says 3,000 girls, but we've also started to teach boys in some of our classes. We do let them in at times, but this should really reach 3,000 students, and our program continues to grow exponentially. But why is this work important? I think it's important to really point out the problem that we are trying to solve. I think it's probably preaching to the choir for me to tell you guys that technology is taking over the world, and if you don't know something about coding or technology, you'll probably be left behind. But the sad point about this is that despite the incredible growth in the field of technology, women and girls, and especially people of color, are being summarily bypassed and left behind as being able to play a part in this technology revolution. And when I started the organization, there was this one chart here that really was the light bulb moment for me. And it changed my entire path. Because I was like many of you at the end of 2010. It's been a lot of years in corporate America, and I wasn't doing that shit no more. I was like, I'm out of here. I got my package. I'm doing something else. And excuse my French, but that was definitely how I felt. And I really wanted to take advantage of being in the Bay Area and get involved in the startup economy. But when I looked around from meetup to meetup and conferences and events like this, I found there weren't very many people that looked like me. So when I did a little digging and looked at the numbers, this was one of the first pieces of research that I stumbled across. And you can't see the numbers at the bottom, but really what it's showing you there is that it ends at about 2006, and they've recently updated it. But around about 1985, 1989, that was a peak in terms of women receiving degrees in computer science. Around 30 to 35% of women were graduating with bachelor's degrees in computer science. That was about the time I was in college and studying electrical engineering. And it didn't seem like there were that many of us in the room. So it's odd and a little bit disappointing that as we're going further into this era of deep penetration for technology, the number of women that are going into the field continues to decrease. Now, they just updated this chart like last year, and the numbers are lower than they ever were the year before. So currently, less than 18% of women are receiving degrees in CS as a bachelor's degree. And when you look at the number for women of color, the number plummets off the cliff. So African American women currently receive only about 3% of CS degrees when they're going to college to get their bachelor's. But for Native Americans and Latino sisters, the number is even worse. It's less than 1%. So the question is why in this burgeoning age of computer science and technology are women not seeking to go into the field? If you look at some of the societal issues, it's very obvious why women are not making it through this pipeline. So for us, when we looked at the girls that we are working with or seeking to work with in our program, the educational system is definitely one of the largest culprits that is failing our girls. So for African American women, they have the lowest graduation rate of any girl except for Native Americans. Lowest graduation rate ever than any girl other than Native Americans. But for many girls, like my daughter Kai, those problems start way before high school. So in the state of California and many other urban areas, if you look at Latino and African American students, they score on average 2 to 3 grade levels below their peers in math and language arts from grades 4 to 8. 4 to 8, they're 2 to 3 levels behind their peers. So that's right at the time that they possibly will be going into middle school, and they're already behind. So now then let's look at girls. Now we have girls of color that might make it to middle school with just a bit of interest still in STEM or computer science. Well, if you look at a broad expanse of girls in middle school, and you ask them if they're interested in a STEM career or computer science, more than half say yes, they are. And for students of color, they over-index an interest in computer science. But by the time these same girls get to high school, less than 1% express an interest in going into a field in technology. So somewhere in that educational path, we're losing girls at an exponential level. And that problem is exacerbated when you throw in the other societal challenges and economic barriers for students of colors in some of these same communities. Now, while those statistics are dire, and those are definitely some of the main drivers for the work that we do, the thing that really keeps me up at night are the personal stories that I continue to hear for young women that are currently in college, young women that have started their first careers in technology, as well as women like myself that graduated from college a long time ago. And those are those personal messages that tell girls and women, well, maybe you're just not cut out to be a computer scientist. One particular story that really strongly touched me in a deep way was a student named Joy that I met a couple of years ago when she was a senior at Georgia Tech, majoring in electrical engineering, and had already started her first startup company, which was very successful. Joy was actually from my hometown in Memphis, Tennessee, and this is one of those students that you talk to and you know this kid's going places because she has so much potential. And to see her starting her career as a computer scientist at Georgia Tech, no less, and having already started a startup, really was something that I thought was incredibly impressive. But in a few of my conversations with Joy, one of the things that really surprised me was that she told me, although she was an academically gifted student in high school, when she was interested in going into AP Computer Science around her junior or senior year, and she approached the technology leader at her school, she was told, I don't think that's for you, Joy. AP Computer Science is good, but I think you're probably better suited for CAD. Why don't you enroll in CAD? Because that's probably a little bit more in line with your abilities. And this is not a unique story. I hear the same type of story from girls and women time and time again. That before they even get to step in the door, across the threshold, to pursue a career that may interest them, they're told they're not really suited. Or they step into environments like that summer camp experience for my daughter at Stanford, and they see that they're not others that are interested from the lack of participation that look like them. And that's what we're battling against. Not only to increase the pipeline for women and girls in technology, but to change the paradigm, to change the image of the stereotypical male geek as the only person that's capable of being a tech leader of the day. So even though these stories are discouraging at a time in terms of the work that we still have to do to change the face of the industry, I'm really buoyed in this work by the students that continue to come through our program and to excel. I wanted to again talk about my daughter Kai and her progress since she started out as just a middle school student at 12. She's now a sophomore in high school, and for all you parents out there, you can probably understand why I'm getting sleepless nights right about now. It has nothing to do with trying to get code to work. It has everything to do with having a daughter who's in high school. But I've been really happy to see my daughter not only grow in self-confidence as a coder, but to become a leader. She continues to program. She's learned multiple languages. This just shows her in her element in school and the things that she loves. And she continues to sit as a leader on her high school robotics team, as one of the only few girls on the team, but still showing this interest in going into technology as a career path. And I think a lot of that has to do with the work we've been able to do with Black Girls Code. The second student I wanted to talk to you a little bit about was Sharmi. Sharmi was the girl in the middle on the screen. And I wanted to point out that at that time, in 2013, Sharmi was only 10. She's now just had a birthday, so she's 11. But Sharmi not only continues to learn to code on her own outside of Black Girls Code classes, she has multiple applications that are live in the iTunes store as well as in Google Play. So in December, while she was doing the hackathon and just happened to do her work as a homeschooler, she decided to create this app called Doll Finder, which you can find in the iTunes store, because that's one of her interests, is dolls. So why not use technology to advance something that she's interested in? And this is at 11 with no help from me. And finally, Rebecca, who was 13 at the time of Lean Startup, is now 14. Rebecca came into the program knowing, like my daughter Kai, she wanted to go into gaming. And she continues to drive towards that path of being a game developer. So although we don't teach Ruby yet in our classes or Python, Rebecca thought she needed to learn that. So she went out on her own and started to enroll in things like Girl Develop It and Rails Bridge classes in the Bay Area. But not only did she enroll herself, she did something that we find that is unique in our program. So she started to take her mother along. So although her mother, who has absolutely no background in computer science or technology, not only is she supporting her daughter, she's creating a new potential future for herself. Now, thank you. Now, I would be remiss if I told you or led you to believe that technology can solve all problems. I don't believe that that's the case. But I do believe very strongly that if we remove these barriers and these obstacles for women and girls, which tell them what they can't do and tell them that they can't become leaders in the technology industry, we will open up the potential for new, unique, and innovative ideas to a plethora of societal problems, which potentially could change the world that we know today. So I love that the theme of this conference is really focused on creation and creativity. Because when I received my degree back at the end of the 80s in engineering, like most engineers, I really felt that I was a maker. I am a creator of things, and this is cool, I'm an engineer, I create things, I build things. I may break things sometimes, but that was my persona as an engineer. I no longer look at myself as only a builder of things. I look at myself now as a creator of possibilities. And there's much work to be done to continue to drive forward with this mission, this very critically important mission, to introduce women and girls to technology as both the leaders and creators of tomorrow. We are really focused on, as I mentioned before, this goal of becoming the Girl Scouts of technology and reaching 1 million girls of color by the year 2040. Although we have 7 chapters now that are currently in operation, our goal is to open at least 8 more before the end of 2015 and to continue on this effort to reach more students across the U.S. and beyond. I really think that it's important for us in the industry to understand that this driving force is that if we focus and continue on this current path, where technology is designed mostly by males, who make up only half of our population currently, we're missing out on the innovation, solutions, and creativity that a broader pool of talent can bring to the table. This is the work that we're doing with Black Girls Code. And it's more than just teaching girls how to code or build apps. What we're teaching them is self-confidence and self-efficacy so that they can step into their leadership possibilities and become the change agents that we need. Because we don't just want these girls to create the next greatest app. We want to teach them to use these computational thinking skills and this creativity and problem solving to work on the big solutions, the big problems that will really change the course of the world as we see it today. I think this work is important because we don't truly know the potential of girls until we tell her there's nothing she can't do. This is me in 1970, so forgive that really 70s looking outfit, but hey, it was the style of the time. And if you asked me then if I would be standing in this place, a social change agent, utilizing technology as a lever for social change, I would have told you no, because I wasn't interested in those type of things at the time. I was really a girly girl. But one thing that I was interested in was utilizing my skills to make the world a better place. And that's the essence of the work we're doing today, because we never know if a girl that was in the picture before, or any of the students that are coming through our program, where she'll go in the future and what type of leader she can potentially become. As I think about Kai and Rebecca and Sharmi and all of the girls that are coming through our programs, I'm really impacted by another great woman, role model and mentor that we all have known or we all have heard of, called Wilma Rudolph, who was an Olympic champion. And Wilma was interviewed by a reporter and asked about the secret to her success and how she was able to become such a great athlete. And I love the response that she gave. She said, "Well, my doctors told me I would never walk again. But my mother told me that I would. And I believe my mother. I believe in these girls and the opportunity to give them the potential and the encouragement to do more with technology than just create the next app. But by using technology, these girls may actually become the change agents that we're looking for and change the world." And that's my goal. Thank you.